Well, we are back, and I'd like to welcome back Mike Colowa as the principal with Irvine Advisors. Nice to have you back.
Hey,
good to see you again.
Thanks for having me.
You know, last time you were here, we were talking about basically what is sort of the slogan of your company, alternative investments, and we were talking about kind of what they are. Let's go over that briefly, and then we're going to get to a couple other things we didn't have time last time.
Great.
So just kind of give us a roundabout view of alternative investments. How is that different than what people usually hear, the stock market,
Sure.
things like that?
Sure. Alternative investments, in a broad sense, is everything that is not stocks, bonds, or cash. Not mutual funds, not bond funds, not money markets, not CDs. It's everything outside of that. So as you can imagine, that could be a lot.
It could be, yeah.
We focus on a much smaller segment of the alternative investment market, which is stable, high yield, cash flow producing investment opportunities that tend to be less correlated to the overall economy.
Okay, when you talk about cash flow, how does that work with alternative investments? Is it something that's paying out monthly in dividends, or something people can expect every year or in the long run?
It's a combination, or it can be either one. Some of our funds that we have, the real estate funds that may invest in student housing types of properties, or maybe just multifamily properties around the country. Those properties or those funds tend to pay monthly, and really it's just the income, it's the cash flow from those properties that those properties are producing.
Okay.
So as income goes up, or as rents rise, your income can go up. It's tied to the assets that are in the fund. So as the real estate asset appreciates in value, so does your stake in the fund. That's where the cash flow would come from.
Okay.
Other types of cash flow would be if you're investing in many different types of companies, and maybe they're paying a dividend, and so the fund that owns a piece of all these companies will create a dividend or a distribution. Sometimes they're paid monthly. They're usually paid monthly. Sometimes they're paid quarterly.
Okay. As far as those companies that you just mentioned, are they usually smaller startup companies, maybe companies that don't have the ability to get the big investments from the major banks and that sort of thing? We've seen that over the past few years, much more common than it used to be. They themselves are looking for alternative financing.
Correct. And again, with this new alternative investment platform, it's allowing a lot of these types of companies to get money that they need to get to the next stage. Where we would come in would typically be after the angel investment, after the initial startup cost, after the friends and family, when they're actually producing some stuff. We would go in there, and now you can actually go in and replace the venture capital part of it.
Okay.
Venture capital firms tend to want a lot of ownership and a lot of guidance.
Right.
But they also take ridiculously high fees, and they own a lot of the company. They take a lot of the profits. Newer firms now have come in, and they are able to replace that venture capital portion of it, and split the ownership with a fund that owns these. Okay,
and that's how you get into those things like that.
Correct.
What about as far as the investment goes? What is the time frame? Are people's money locked in for a certain time, as they would be with maybe annuities or something like that?
That's a good question. Every one of our opportunities has a different strategy.
Okay.
It's safe to say that most of them are considered illiquid, which means that you can expect to have your money locked up for some period of time.
Okay.
Sometimes it's 6 months, sometimes it's a year, sometimes it's 2 years, sometimes it could be 5 years. Now, each of these opportunities would have a liquidity option, but it would cost you to get out of it. So we look at our clients' overall portfolio, where they need to be a little more illiquid, and we can guide them in that way.
Okay, and that's good to know, that people can go from maybe just a matter of a few months to a few years, just depending how long they want to be able to lock their money up like that. When it's in there, can they move that around? Maybe they're into something that they liked and decide maybe a year later, once they're past that certain point, can they decide you know, Mike, is there some other type of investment that we can kind of move into?
It depends on the fund we put them in.
Okay.
A lot of the companies we work with have multiple funds, and so they'll let people move from one fund to another fund, or take part of their investment from one fund to another fund. And again, if you're outside of your lockup window, you can just take your proceeds back. But typically, you're locked into a particular investment for a certain period of time.
Okay, and that's true of many different kinds of investments. What about growth? You know, you're not only hopefully getting a nice positive cash flow, but what about the growth of that investment, of the principal?
It typically will depend on the strategy of what we're looking for, the overall plan. But most of these funds will provide, at least they're projecting significant growth on the back end as these progress. There's a few that are just cash flow funds, but most of them will have a growth component that will be discussed very in depth, and it'll talk about the risks and the possibility for the growth.
Okay, what are some of the services that you provide overall? As you said earlier, that you're not exactly managing the wealth so much as looking at the different alternatives. So let's say I come to you and I say I have such and such money, I've got all this money over here that I want to keep in this type of investments, but I want to bring you some money for some alternative investment.
That's what we like to do. So we like to see our clients' whole portfolio, do an analysis, and see exactly where they could benefit from our services. And so we have an opportunity. We would look at opportunities to move. Maybe we take 10% of their portfolio or 20% of their portfolio and move it around into different types of alternative investments to meet their cash flow needs, to meet their stability needs, and their growth perspectives.
Okay. If somebody is interested, what is the first step? Come in and they sit down, and as you said, you look over. Do you look over all their finances, maybe just what they're invested in? Yet some people may not have much investment at all.
We look at whatever they want to share with us, quite frankly. We prefer to look at everything. We offer a free portfolio analysis, so take advantage of it.
Yeah.
We're just right down the street here in South Irvine, and so it'd be great. They come into our office. We look at what their investment portfolio looks like. We look at their real estate portfolio. Maybe it makes sense for them to sell the rental property that they've held on to for the last 20 years,
right,
and capitalize on that equity and get involved in some property that maybe is in different parts of the country or a different asset class than they're used to, doing a tax-deferred exchange. So we'll look at the overall portfolio and really find out what's best for them. Maybe they need to be in a very strong tax advantage situation. Maybe they don't need to worry too much about taxes. Maybe they just need income, or maybe they need a blend. So we'll look at different ways to really come to the best solution for them.
All right, it sounds good. And like you said, you're right down the street. You're on Research Drive, which is right over there by Lake Forest, so not far from
right down the street
at all. The website is Irvine Advisors LLC, and the number is 949-825-6030. And this looks like some real interesting opportunities for people. And you know, you can see Mike has a lot to offer here. If you have any thought about maybe taking a portion of your investment and putting in something a little bit different that could provide you with some nice cash flow, I'd give Mike and his partners a call, definitely. Good to see you again.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
All right, again, that's Irvine Advisors. IrvineAdvisorsLLC.com is the website. Good to see you again.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.